So guys, in this video we're building a Discord bot, and it's going to be a very simple bot. We'll write the command ping and it's just going to respond pong to us. It's going to be a small video, but I'll still divide it into two separate small parts. So this is part one of the video, and in this video we'll try to do all the process that's required on Discord to get our token IDs generated. In the second video we'll actually write our Golang code. So here are the steps, as you can see on my screen, that we're going to follow. So you need a Discord account for obviously, and then secondly you need to be an admin of a server. So this can be if you don't do this step, it can be very confusing for you, because a lot of people try to create a bot for servers that they're not an admin of, and that will be tricky because you won't be able to give it any permissions. So you need to create a server and you need to be admin of that server. So, and then we'll have to create an app. So let's get started from this point onwards, right? So I already have my Discord account, and I am an admin of this fake community called tribe community. And then what we'll do is we'll say Discord API. Let's search for that, and it says blah 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 blah, and here it says make an app. Okay, go make an app. So I'll create a new application. I'll say ping bot. It just pings back, right? So I'll say create, and here it's given me my application ID and it's given me my public key, right? So let's go back to our diagram and see we have created the bot. Now we have to assign it permission. Sorry, we have created an app. Now we have to create a bot in this. So you can see this third option is bot. So what you'll do now is you will add bot. You'll say yes, and then it's given you a token, right? So you can click to reveal it, and you can copy this token and keep it, right? And so make sure you copy this token. And now let's go back to our diagram. So we've created a bot. Now let's assign it permissions. So the permissions that I'll assign it will be send messages, and actually I'm going to click on all of these. It doesn't matter. It's going to read and send messages basically, and also view channels. So that is it. And now what we'll do is we'll again go back. We'll see that we have to copy bot token. We have already done that, right? And now we have to authorize the app to the server using a link. So this link is something that I always keep misplacing. So I have kept it with myself. I've emailed it to myself. And what I'll do now is I'll also put this in the description box below so that you can find it easily. This link can be slightly challenging to find. I mean, I was not able to find it, at least on their website. So here the client ID that we need to put is the application ID that you'll find in your general information in your application dashboard. So we'll just copy this application ID and we'll place it here. And now we'll press enter. And here it's going to ask you about the ping bot. Do you want to add it to your server, and which server do you want to add to? So I'll say tribe community. I'll say authorize. I'll say I'm a human, and authorize, right? So now if I go back to my community, tribe community, I'll see the ping bot here, right? And I'll be able to send it messages. So now we have our bot token, we have authorized our bot. Our bot is there in our server. So everything looks good. So to build the bot, we'll be using this library called Discord Go. So somebody has actually gone through the trouble of going through the API documentation of Discord and actually creating a Discord Golang wrapper around it, so that all we have to do is import this library and call functions that this person has already written, and those functions in turn talk to the APIs that Discord has provided. So let me just take you through this library once so that you understand how a library is built, and probably in one of the future videos we'll build a library for some API, like probably Airtable or Notion, something like that. We'll actually build a library from scratch so that you'll get a better idea of how to write these kind of type of libraries, because in your career, let's say if you join a company, if you become a Golang developer, this could be a task that may be given to you, where the company built a product and then now they want to write a library, a Golang library for that product. So that's a very, very common kind of a task that you get when you join the company as a Golang developer. Anyhow, so as you can see, there are some files, right? And some files are more important than the other files. So one file is this oauth.go. So this obviously, is about how the bot, how your bot is going to sign into Discord, right? And then you have your discord.go. And this has a lot of, important structs and functions around creating a new session and using the token inside Discord. And then you have your events, right? All the types of events that can possibly happen inside Discord. And then you have your event handlers. So for all those events, there are all these event handlers that you have, right? So channel pins update, event handler. So all the events that take place, there will be functions that can handle those events, right? And then you have your different interactions where you can define what an interaction is. Is it a message or a voice message, and how does it work basically? So all of those things are here, right? So somebody has already written all these functions for you. There's also logging there, as you can see, right? So all of there are also tests written for each of these. And then user file is also important because we'll be creating our bot as a user, and so we'll have to give it an ID. So we'll be using some functions from this user file as well. And maybe in the future I'll show you how to use the voice messages also. So it's not important for you to go through this library, but it's just a good exercise. Whenever you're using a library, just go through it, see what kind of functions that the person has written, and what all can you use, right, in your own project. So now the functions that we'll be using are very basic in the sense we could just going to use a function called new, which just creates a new bot. We just create you're going to use a function called user, which just creates a user for us and then assigns it a user ID. And then a channel message sent, which just sends a message. That's all. We're not doing anything special here. We're just creating a bot that replies pong if you send ping to it, right? That is all it does. Obviously, we'll have more complicated lessons coming up in the future where we'll build like a weather tracker. We'll build like a data scraper, all of that right inside Discord. But the thing is, you need to start somewhere, right? So we're going to start at a very basic place now. Now I'll take you back to my PowerShell. Yeah, so now we're in our PowerShell, and we're going to go inside the folder where I keep most of my Go code. And here we're going to create a directory called Discord ping. So we'll cd inside this Discord ping, and we're going to open up our project in VS Code. You could be using any other code editor, doesn't matter. And also these PowerShell commands, these are the same if you're using it doesn't matter if you're using Mac or Ubuntu. The commands are going to be the same. Now let me try switching to my VS Code. I think you can see my VS Code now. So as you can see, we have a completely empty blank canvas, and we'll create a file called main.go, and we'll have more folders here, don't worry. And then we'll also have config.json where we'll create a key power tokens. So in config.json, all you need to do is you need to just keep your token, and also Discord wants something called as bot prefix from us, and it's usually this exclamation mark. Okay, so for the token, now let me try and find my token. And so you can go to your app Discord. I'm not sure if you can see my browser. Let me try and so you can see my browser now. So we'll go ahead and go to our Discord bot app. So somewhere, so we can see our ping bot here. So in the previous video, you already copied the bot token, I think, but I'm just showing it to you again in case you're joining in right now for this video. So this is the bot token you have to copy, and you have to paste it. So let me switch over back to my VS Code so you can see. So I've copy and pasted my token, and everything looks good. So what we'll do now is we'll start working on our main.go file. So let's save this file, and back here in our main.go file, we'll say package main, and we'll say import, and I know we need fmt, and I know that we'll need 2 more files, but let's create those files first. So we'll say func main, and we want to first read our config file, right? So we need this function that reads our config file, And what I'll do is I'll create it. It's inside another file, config file. So I'll just, for now, I'll just say config.readconfig. All right. It'll be inside another file called config.go. So don't worry about that right now. But the important part is that this is the function that we need to write there. All right. And then we check for error. You know how to check for error. You say error is not equal to nil. And if error is not equal to nil, then you print out the error. Print ln and error dot error. All right. And then you return from here. Then you need something to start the bot. All right. We need to write this function that starts the bot. This also, I think I'll write in another file, not in the main .go file. And then we'll just create an empty channel, notification channel that with of size 0. And then we'll just return from here. All right. So this is it. This is all that we have to do in our main.go file. That's all. All right. Okay. So now let's create our two folders that I've been talking about, the two other files. And one will be a folder called bot, and the other will be a folder called config. Inside config, we need to create a file called config.go. Inside bot, we need to create a file called bot.go. So all that config is doing is just revolving around reading this config.json file. That's all the config.go file will do. And bot.go file is the main file which is responsible for actually sending the messages as a bot on Discord, right? And all our main.go file is doing is just, calling those functions. That's all it's doing, right? So now what we'll do is let me first check if my config.json has the right token. Yeah, it has the right token. Anyhow, so let's come back to our config.go file. So in our config.go file, we'll start writing package config import. So I know that I need encoding /JSON, I need fmt, and I need io/ioutil. And let's define some variables, token string and bot prefix as string. Because I want to get these two variables from my config.json file into config, right? So that I'll need these two variables so that I can use them later on. And then I'll have config, which will be config struct. All right, so let's define what is config struct. So type config struct. It is obviously of type struct, right? And it has two things. One is a token, and not JSON.token, just token. And the other thing is bot prefix. And you already know how this works. It's going to say string and JSON token, right? And something wrong with my mouse. And then you have bot prefix, which is also a string, and JSON token. Sorry, bot prefix. Okay. So we'll read the config file and we'll get that into a struct, and then we'll define our variables with that. That's the whole plan here. That's why we're doing all of this. And now we'll have to create our main function, the func read config, okay, which we're calling in main.go. We're calling the read config function, right? And that's what we are trying to basically build out here. And all that this function does is just read the config file. So we'll say fmt dot println. I mean, the code is quite simple, so I'm hoping you don't have any doubts. But if you have any doubts or any issues, anything that you're not understanding, then you can feel free to put it out in the comments below. So so the first thing it says, it's going to start reading the config file, right? And then we're going to use the ioutil package that we have used out here, and we are going to use the read file function, and we're going to use our config.json file. Make sense? And we're going to take the value that comes from here into file, and also it returns something called as an error. So it returns two things. If it returns an error, that means if error not equal to nil, you just print out the error, fmt.println error, and you return the error from this function. Okay, and here we're going to print out the file. Now what we'll do is we'll unmarshal config. So we'll say json.unmarshal file comma config, right? And then we'll say error is equal to yes. And here, if there is an error, we'll just print out the error. So we'll say fmt.println error and return the error. Okay. So we've taken our config.json. From JSON, we have unmarshaled it and created a regular, Golang readable string format type of a thing, right? And now we'll be able to basically, and we have this in something called as config. Now all we need to do is we need to assign token and bot prefix the values from this config, right? Because this has the Golang readable values. Now what we'll do is we'll say token, our token variable, which will now become equal to config.token, right? And bot prefix will become equal to config.bot prefix, and return nil because there's no error if we've come this far, right? So does this make sense? Let me take you through the entire code again, actually, just to make sure. So you imported these three things, right? Encoding JSON, because I want to use the unmarshalling package from JSON, unmarshalling function from the JSON package. I want to use the print functions from FMT, the format package, so I'm going to use those. And from IOUtil, I need the function that helps me to read the file. So what I'm doing basically is I have these two variables, and then a config variable of type config struct. Config structs, if you don't know, are your own data types in Golang. So you can create your own data type in Golang, right? And this struct is of type token, which is of string, right? And bot prefix, which is of type string. And so we have config of type config struct, right? So I'm sure till now that much is clear. And now what we'll do is we'll read the file config.json, which already is there. We've created that. It has token and bot prefix, right? And it's going to store that in file, or it's going to return an error. If there's an error, you print out the error. If you receive the file, then you print out the file. As simple as that, right? And then you try and unmarshal this file and bring the values into config. Okay, config, which is a variable of type config struct. Okay, and now that you have the values here, you will say config.token is equal to token, your token variable, this one token, which is just a string. It becomes equal to config token, and bot prefix becomes equal to config.bot prefix. So now token and bot prefix are not JSON, they're actually Golang readable values that Golang can process. And also we'll be sending these when creating the Discord, the bot in for Discord, right? So I hope till now everything is clear. And so we've written our main.go file, we've written our config.go file, and all that we need to do now is write our bot.go file. And it's actually a very, very simple file. In this video, we have to start writing our bot.go file. So let's get started. So I'll say package bot, and I'll be importing a couple of things. One of them will be the format package, and we'll have to import the config file. So which reminds me, I've not initialized this project, right? We have not done Go mod in it. So what I'll do is I'll take you back to the PowerShell, right? And now what we'll do here is we'll say Go mod init, and we'll say github.com/akhil/discord ping. All right, and we can say go mod id, obviously. And there's one package that I need, like I showed you in the previous video, that we need that Discord Go package, right? So we're going to say go get github.com/wmarin/discord go. So it is added that. So I'm not sure if this is the one, BW Marin. Yeah, there's double R here. Just make sure in Discord Go. So we have that package now. I think we can now switch back to our code editor. Not sure if you can see the code editor. Let me try switching it back on again. Yeah, now you can see it. So here I want to import my config file. So what I'll do is I'll say discord, the name of the project I gave it was discord ping, right? So I'll say discord ping /config, and I'll say github.com/bwmarin/discord go. Okay, so far so good. And now we start writing the actual code. So we need a variable called bot id, which will be string, and we have a variable called in the next line, variable called gobot, which will be of type session discord go dot session. Okay, and basically in our Go bot we want to when we create a new bot, right, a new session, we want to store it in our Go bot, right? That's why we have to create this variable called Go bot. And for the bot ID, we have to, if we want our bot to actually exist as a user in our channel and want to reply to us, we obviously have to provide it an ID, right? So let's say func start. Now, in case you're wondering what func start is, let me first correct the spellings. Yeah, so if you're wondering what func start is, it's basically the same function that we had in our main.go file, right? So we had func this start, right? Bot.start. So that means that we can import our config and bot folders here. So let's do that, so that these two squiggly lines will go away, because now we have actually started writing those files. So we'll say github.com/akhil/discord ping/bot, right, for the bot folder and the bot file. And we'll say github.com/akhil/discord ping/config for the config folder and the config file, right? So now if we save this, I'm trying to save it. So if we save this, then the squiggly lines will go away, like you see right now, right? So main.go file is sorted. You don't have to do anything here. In the config file, I don't think you need any other packages. So this is also sorted. In the bot file, you have these packages, and that's all we needed. And now we'll get back to working on our start function. So we'll say discord go dot new to create the new session, and here we'll pass our config dot token, right? So in our main file, we're able to get in our config file, we're able to get the tokens, right, towards the end. So that's the token that we have to use here, right? So config.token, and this will help us start a session. So as you remember, where are we storing the session? We're storing it in gobot variable. So we'll say gobot, and the other thing it returns is an error, right? So we'll say gobot and error is equal to discord go dot new, and we'll pass the token here, and this will help us create the bot session, right? And if there is an error, which means if error not equal to nil, then we'll just print out the error, right? Error and we'll return from here. Okay. And now, so there's a squiggly line here because we have defined GoBot and we have not used it, but soon we'll use it. And now we have to create the bot as a user. So we'll say user is equal to, and user in error, go bot dot user. Okay. And if there is an error for this, so for each statement we are handling errors, which is a good practice, right? That just makes sure that you won't have any errors. So we'll say println error dot error. All good here. And now, since we have our user, right, and we have we want to store our we want to get the ID of this user and store it in our bot ID. So we'll say bot ID equal to u.id. All right. And the other function from the GoBot library, from this Discord Go library that we want to use, is the add handler function. And here we'll call a function called message handler, and this function is something that we're going to write right now. So don't get confused. We have not written this function yet, so we'll be writing this function. It will be a complete function that will help us to read commands and also to send messages back. Okay, so what we're doing is we're using this function called new, right, from that Discord Go package. We are using user, we're using add handler, right? So new creates a session, user creates a user and gets us the user ID, and add handler creates a handler that helps us to read and write messages to the channel. Okay, so I hope everything is clear till now. So after you have added the handler, you have to say error is equal to go bot dot open, right? Starts the session. And so we've created a session, but open is the function that actually starts the session. Okay, and we'll say fmt dot print ln error dot error, return fmt dot print ln as it says print, it's actually print ln. Okay, and we'd like to output bot is running. So far so good. So we have our start function in place. So we have a squiggly line here. It says message handler is not defined, but that's not a problem because we are actually going to write our message handler function right now. And so till now we have used this add handler, open, user, and new, all these functions. And like I showed you in the first video, you can, or in the second video actually, you can always go to the Discord Go package in on GitHub and actually check out these functions and what they do, right? So nothing very confusing. What I've done for you is basically I've removed or I've reduced the time for you to actually go and read about these functions and actually how to use them. So what we'll do now is we'll say func message handler and s discord go dot session. Okay, and m, which is discord go dot message create. So I don't see that function here in the auto fill, so I'll have to write it manually. Discord go dot message create. All right, so we're creating this message handler function here, so that's why all the errors have gone away. And here now there's one thing we need to do, right? So in all bots, like let's say Slack bot or Discord bot, when you define a lot of commands, right, sometimes there could be commands, the answers could actually be confused as commands by the bot, right? So what we need to do is we need to make sure if the author.id, author of the message, is not equal to the bot ID. That means that bot does not start confusing the messages that it is sending itself, right, as the messages that are coming as commands. So otherwise it'll go into like a forever loop. So this is a very common practice. I mean, don't get confused here. This is a very, very common code you'll see in almost all Slack and Discord bots, right? So if the author ID of the message that's coming here is equal to the bot ID, then return. Don't do anything, because that's a message that you only sent as the bot, right? So don't do anything. Otherwise, if the content, in all other cases where this is not equal, then, and if the content is ping, which is going to be our command that we'll send it right now, then all you have to do is s channel and message send. And here we'll have the channel ID on which you have to reply, and the response that you want to send. So in my case, I want to send the response pong. You can send anything that you want. You can define the command also, anything that you like. So but we also have to capture these values. Now, since we don't want to capture it in actual variables and do anything with those values, we'll just put these blank descriptors here, and everything else looks good. But I know that there will be errors for sure, so let me just go through the complete code again. You can do that as well in your own code if you're coding along with me. Just go through the entire code and see if there could be any places of error, any typos, any silly mistakes. But even if I check all of that, I know there will be errors. I must have missed something. So you can just take 2 minutes and go through the entire code. So the error has been printed out properly. I have taken the ID. Message handler is proper. Go bot open, and bot is running. And this also seems to be all right. So our bot file looks okay. Config file, I am not so sure. Config file, config struct and read config. And you have your print and unmarshalling and your tokens and return nil. And main.go file actually doesn't have much, right? It just has these two functions, calls to these two functions. That is it. So what you can do is we can actually try running this program. I know there will be errors. We'll solve it together, not a problem. So let's go back, head over back to our PowerShell. So we're back in our PowerShell, and let's try building it. Let's see what it says. So there's no issues right now. So we'll say go run main.go. Will it run? I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's saying there's some kind of an error, right? So it says unmarshal nil star config struct, right? So we have to go back to our code and actually try. So back in our VS Code, now we'll have to start and try and look for the error. Yeah, so I think I have one particular, at least one issue I've found, is that we have to pass a reference here to config and not config itself. So this is a mistake that I made. Always in unmarshal function, you have to pass the reference, right? So I found one mistake, and now let's also go to our bot.go, because I'm expecting more issues to be there. Yeah, so in the Discord Go .new function, in this library called Discord Go, you have to have a space here after bot, just one space, right? I don't know why they've kept this, but there has to be like one little space here, and only then it'll work. So I just referred the document again, and then you just make sure you put one space here, right? I know it's a very weird thing. I mean, I also didn't understand why there's a space there, but that's what you have to do. So make sure you put a space here, and make sure you put a ampersand here, and then everything should work, hopefully. So now let's head back to our PowerShell, and let's see what happens. So we'll say go build, and we'll say go run main.go, and here we can see our config file, reading config file and the config file itself. So let me do one thing. I'll actually take you to the code window and show you this file, right? See, so we read our config file, and we assigned that to a variable called file, and then we actually printed out the file as a string in our terminal. So that's why we can see that entire config file in our terminal, right? So I hope you now understand what this is. And now what we'll do is we'll head over to our browser. Yeah, so now you can see my browser, and let's go to our ping bot, and let's so if you go back to your channel, right, the channel being this one. So if you try and find ping bot, which is this, and you say ping, it'll say pong back, right? So Discord bot works fine now. Everything works perfectly, right? And so I hope you've learned something in this video, and this was the final video. We've made the Discord bot, and now in the upcoming videos we'll start creating more complicated Discord bots, right? Bots that can forecast weather, that can tell us whether it is in which city, and currency converters, and even bots that can work with Jira and Trello. So let's start that, in the next coming week. So if you're new to this channel, do subscribe, because I keep coming up with this kind of stuff, interesting stuff that you build on our channel. And thank you for watching. Thanks a lot.